Okay.
You may look at there.
Yeah. Well, whichever. We're just going to talk, so it's just going to be a conversation. So whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
We are here at Kenwood Country Club, just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, a historic golf club actually built in 1932. We're happy to be talking with Jason Straka, who did the renovation here along with his partner Dana Fye. Jason, we got to play the golf course today, and you did a pretty good job.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's always nice to hear some accolades, and it was a nice project to be sure.
This golf course is old, so I understand there was some tree removal that was done. You did some bunker renovation, did a lot of work to the greens.
Very historic golf course. 1930 was originally constructed in 1929, hosted the U.S. Amateur Championship, U.S. Women's Open, a couple of Western Opens. So it's got a really nice pedigree for Ohio. And a lot of what we did here was a lot of restorative work, and the greens and the bunkers and tree removal, bringing back that 1930 Golden Age design.
You talked about something that was kind of unique for me. You pretty much tore up every green. You stripped it down, you took the sod off, you took what was underneath, and because it was all lasered, you were able to put it back together exactly like it was.
So newer technology, newer I should say, where you're right, we were able to laser scan all of the greens to really within a millimeter of their their proposed elevation, current elevation, and then proposed. And so we were able to soften a few of the pin locations. Of course, green speeds back in 1930 and the 40s were a lot different than they are now. And there were a lot of pin locations that were lost to time. And so when we would go around with the members and looking at the renovation work, we would start talking about pin locations behind bunkers and bringing back the angles and the strategy of a lot of the holes. And I said, I bet you've never even played to these hole locations. And they said, we haven't even imagined that there were holes, in some of these places. And then you get a few of the old timers out and they go, oh yeah, we remember back in the 40s, that we used to play to holes there. And so, it just sort of got lost to the decades. And I think that was one of the most things that I was really intrigued and happy with, that we were able to bring back.
I'm kind of a golf historian, kind of crazy, and the bunkering that especially is along the side of the fairways and around the greens, it really looks like it was laid in there in the 30s, not really redone here in the 2000s.
So we were able to find a few old pictures, so that old sort of rugged style, if you will, with we call them bull-nosed edges as well. Those were mimicking all the original photographs and even the plans that we had from 1930. Again, those locations and that style, even some of the depths around the greens, we knew from those old plans. But we worked really, really hard to make them look old, not like they were just rebuilt.
I know a lot of people don't like to hear the, tearing down trees and opening up on the golf course and that kind of thing, but it's really important to do to modernize and be able to save the golf course. But you also found the trees had overgrown bunkers and they'd overgrown the greens, and you were able to open up new sight lines.
We sure were. So even playing the 17th and 18th holes, coming up to this beautiful Tudor clubhouse, which is, thankfully is all original. You couldn't even see the clubhouse, so it was just an incredible backdrop. And, you would start to sort of educate the members about, what this really looked like, back in the heyday, and really what it could look like again. And so as you're finishing 17, 18, again, it's just this awesome backdrop, this beautiful clubhouse. And then it's such a nice piece of property as well. And so just looking out across the landscape and looking at the rolling terrain and all the shadows, it's sort of the kaleidoscope of colors and textures and heights. And before it was just nothing but really a forest.
One other point we want to make before we let you go. So Donald Ross has kind of a unique connection to this property. He didn't design the original layout, but he was involved from the beginning.
He was. The club had hired Donald Ross to help them secure and find a piece of property. So the club was founded prior to the golf course site being chosen. He came in. He actually then picked this property. And then for reasons really unknown, they ended up hiring Bill Diddle, who was an original American Society Golf Course Architects founder, and from Indianapolis, so a Midwestern boy. And he's the one that did the original 36-hole layout.
Jason, one more question. I know you're very involved with the American Society of Golf Course Architects Association. Tell us a little bit about that and how you've been involved with them over the years.
So we'll be celebrating our 75th anniversary this year. So we're of course all excited about that. You know, people recognize, you know, Bill Diddle I'd mentioned, but Robert Trent Jones and Donald Ross and quite a few of our founders. And so I'm honored to be incoming president, you know, in September, which I'll take over in my hometown of Cleveland, which is awfully nice, and it'll be a wonderful evening to celebrate with all of my colleagues and family. And so I've been involved with ASGCA, as you know, we all call it, for many, many years right now. Of course, it's just like any other organization working through a pandemic. It's been a bit of a challenge, but you know, we're really healthy, active, involved. Again, right there working with our sister organizations like the USGA, of course, the club managers and others. So it's an honor to represent our society.
What's next for Fry Straka? What are you working on now? What are we going to see next?
Well, we're quite busy at home, and when I say at home in the U.S., but we still do have some international projects, which, you know, thank heavens that as COVID starts to subside some, that we're going to be getting back to in the UAE, so United Arab Emirates, and we're down in Latin America, in Brazil and Mexico building right now, and we've got some work in Asia and Vietnam, and a project in Canada. So we're, again, spreading our wings and taking off and, you know, getting outside the U.S. a little bit now as well. And so we've got, you know, we're blessed. I mean, there's no question about it. We're blessed to have plenty of work and really interesting projects and some great clients right now. So future looks really bright for, you know, for Dana, myself, and all of our organization.
Talking with Jason Straka from Fry Straka Golf Design right here, pretty much out of Columbus, Ohio. And Jason, thanks so much for taking a minute to talk with us.
My pleasure.
Okay, let me stop this and I'm going to start it again. And we'll talk just a minute about Arcadia.